Another episode of Mr. Allard's Neighborhood. This is the place where you're entitled to Brad's opinion. And now for your host, Brad Allard.
Hey everybody, how y'all doing? It's a nice day outside, nice and warm spring day. Today I have the McClearys who are running the assisting hands program. See, I still stumble over this. You think I'm a seasoned professional, but well, yeah, sure am. Assisting hands. We're going to talk about what they do and if this applies to you or somebody in your family could use this service, how to get a hold of them and whatnot. It's a great program. It's not home health care. I thought it was something like that.
No, not home health care. A lot of people think that we are non-medical home care.
Okay, good. So, but introduce yourselves to the audience.
So my name is Brittany. I have my husband, Matt. We own Assisting Hands Home Care together. We serve Johnson, Ellis, and southern Tarrant counties. We live in Burleson.
And you're a Burleson resident,
a Burleson
native.
Graduate 20 years ago.
No, you don't have to
this
tell us your
year.
age.
Hey, that's a big deal. We're promoting the reunion coming up. There you go. Yes, love Burleson, love being a part of the community. So we're excited to be here.
You left out South Dallas.
South Dallas.
South Dallas,
Okay,
too.
well, good. I just wonder who does most of the talking on these things. You gonna let her do all the talking?
It looks like it's going to be that way.
Don't let him fool you. He is a talker, but
Right.
I'm the boss.
You're the boss. So I got you. Well, we're going to talk about your backgrounds and how you got involved in this and whatever else you feel like talking about. It's a pretty open forum. So, but let's thank the sponsors for making all this possible because I know this business you have really serves a real need, and I'm glad we can have it on the air and promote it and whatnot. So, anyway, Our Place, I bet y'all been there before. Everybody's been to Our Place. I don't think there's a person in Burleson that hasn't been to Our Place. And, of course, then, as Burlesonians, you're not from Burleson, are you, Matt?
I'm not.
Okay. Well, if you were, you'd know what Gina's Pizza is, and now they got that opened up, and it's a big deal because it's been around for a long time, and Otto, the owner of Our Place, has refurbished it quite nicely. So Our Place is a great place to do business if you want to just have a conversation, or it's a great place to relax. Also, Wild Cigar and Culture. Are you a cigar guy by any chance?
I'm not. Her father is.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
They've been there.
They've been there. Is that right? Well, good, because they have a really nice humidor, and Bruce will know what to find. And even if he didn't, they have trained tobacconists. That's what I like about it. It isn't like just some people to hire. If you want to work in that humidor, you have to go through a process to become, an expert in tobacco. And it's not like just any old smoke will do. It's like buying wine. It's all these variations. But anyway, Wild Cigar and Culture's got a very nice setup, and also they got several events going on. So check out their Facebook page. And hey, how you doing, Jack? Check out their Facebook page and find out what's going on. They got several vendors coming in for specials and whatnot, so it's a really active place. Also, Local Life. Are you familiar with Local Life?
Yes, their magazine came in yesterday.
Okay, good, yeah. And so, well, I mean, it's a good place to advertise because it gets 30,000 homes, and also a lot of places will get them, like retail outlets will get several copies like Our Place does or Southern Gym does. And so while you're waiting or whatnot, you can peruse one of those. So it gets a lot of looks, even though they may not subscribe. A lot of people get access to it. Mm-hmm. So thank you, Tiffany. Also, speaking of Southern Gym, have you ever been here before?
That's where my necklace I have on comes from. And it's in our 1-year necklace for any of our employees. It comes from Southern Gym.
Is that right?
It is.
So you know Gayla already?
Oh, yes.
Have you seen Robin there with my wife?
She did. She helped me pick out the necklace.
Yeah, nice. I think she mentioned that this morning. Yes, when I told her that y'all were going to be on. Yeah, it's got a lot of nice inventory. It's got repairs. It's got designs, and they got a big deal coming on May 4th, which is coming closer than one thinks. May 4th is Kentucky Derby Day, and Gayla's really into equestrian sports, and they're going to have like this Kentucky Derby base party 3 to 7, and they're going to have a drawing and for some, like a raffle. There's also, it's a benefit for Wings of Hope, which is an equine therapy group. You know this group?
I do.
How do you know them? Just because you just been around a bit?
Out in the neighborhood.
Out in the neighborhood. Okay.
So, yeah.
Oh, okay. Good for you. And they're going to be on the show the 29th, I believe. So I'll find out what they do. But Southern Gym really has some nice inventory. And it's not all like, it's in everybody's price range. I'll put it that way. And so it really works out well. Also, thank you to Two Maids. I really enjoy this program because what Two Maids is, it's we clean your home, clean your business, clean your building, whatever, your apartment, whatever, and you pay them based on how you rate them, not as so much like a set fee. So twomaidscleaning.com/Burleson or call Brenda at 817-764-0733, and so they'll come and give you an estimate, and assuming you take it on, if the rating is good, the ladies, or there's some guys that do this too, get paid. They get paid a certain rate. And if you don't improve their service, which I asked Brenda this yesterday, has it ever happened that you had a bad rating? She said one in their 3 years of doing this. And, well, she was cranky anyway, so there's always that one, right?
There's always one.
Yeah. No, but they get almost exclusively highest ratings. So they really do a good job. And Brenda's very good at this business. Also, I don't know if you know this group, but you might. Pro Roofing, their local Burleson outfit. John Williams, 817-734-2756. He's been pretty busy, but they do all over the DFW Metroplex. So he's been spending a lot of time up in Denton, Little Elm, Argyle, because they're the ones who've been hit a couple of times with the hail. We luckily have missed a lot of it. But also you should have your roof inspected at least once a year because they age or whatnot, or something happens and you don't know it, and you think, well, it looks fine to me, and you find out you have a leak at a very bad time, when it's heavy rain. So have John come by, take a look, and I'll tell you the truth. You need a roof? You don't need a roof. He'll tell you. Also, Camco, Candy Gal, Sammy Campbell, they've been doing mortgage brokerage for some time. I've used them a couple times for refinancing needs, and they are set up in the B&G building. Their office is on the second floor directly across from Fish City, and they are really good at this job, and they'll hold your hand because, if you've ever done a mortgage financing, it's bewildering, so they're really good at this. 817-778-4592 will get you Sammy. 817-925-2661 will get you Candy, and they'll help you out. We got some nonprofit stuff going on. We got something going on this Saturday, 2 days from now. Light Up the Night with the Center for ASD. Are y'all familiar with this outfit? It's an autism support group.
No.
The Center for, from the people on the autistic spectrum, and they and their families use this service. And it's expanded greatly in the last 3 or 4 years because there's not a lot of groups around that do this kind of service. And so they're having their fundraiser. It's over at the Brick from 6 to 9, and they're going to have critters, pet and zoo, and, sketch artists and candy and vendors and all this other stuff. It's really it's a great thing. So just drop by and check it out. Also, Walk for Life. Our friend Megan will be running this gig. Megan Swearingen. I still call her Hollowell, Know
her well.
Yeah,
yes.
Yes, but it's that she was on the show with Summer Garcia 10 days ago, I believe, and they come in, and I'm always astounded how much service they're providing this community. They come in with the stats, like, wow, like several 100,000 diapers and all this other stuff, and like that kind of thing. Yeah, it is. So this is on April 20th over at their facility near Pathway, and it's a very well-known event, very big event. They've done it many years. So if you're interested in sponsoring and interested in participating, check out that QR code or give them a call. They'll talk to you live in person. Mm-hmm. Also, one last one. This was a different one for me. I didn't know this group, but they contacted me. It's the Amanda Mann Clark Project, and Amanda Mann Clark was a woman who died of colorectal cancer about 2 years ago, and her friend said, we need to do something to make this more aware for the public. You don't think about colorectal cancer until you get it. And she died at age 34, or something. I think it was like mid-30s. And so it was too young. And so they're pressing the need for, examinations, colonoscopies. Have you had one yet? It's a lot of fun.
No, I have not. Not looking forward to it.
Well, I always thought it would be really brutal. I had one about 4 years ago, and what they tell you is you have to drink all this stuff and stay up all night because you're going to be, having to empty yourself out, so to speak. And they've improved that process, so it really wasn't that bad. It wasn't as bad as some of my older friends had gone through. So the only real problem is I had to get up at 3 o'clock for a surgery. That's just brutal on an old man. And it went fine. And so yes, so I can endorse it. It's not as debilitating as it used to be. Anyway, they're going to be at the Martin House Brewing establishment in Fort Worth, and this is on the 28th, and they're going to have all sorts of events going on. I like the butt sketch artist. Now, when I first saw that, when they were here on the show back on the 18th of March, I was like, they're going to draw your backside? Yes, but very tastefully. All right, so, and so there you go. Anyway, there you go. So we got lots going on. And apparently you're involved in something as well, right, Brittany?
Yes, April 27th in Burleson, there's going to be a car show that is for Soldiers Point of Texas. I'm on the board for them, and they house homeless veterans. So you can find their information at Soldiers Point, Texas. They have a Facebook page as well, and it's going to be a really fun car show. Bring out your car. We have vendors, good family fun, and it supports a great cause.
Where is it?
So it is going to be at the Burleson Church Bicentennial.
The Burleson Church Bicentennial. I'm trying to think. Oh, it's okay. It's up on the hill a little bit, right? Okay,
yes.
There you go. That's the one I was thinking of. But if you have some material, send it to us. We'll put it in the rotation like that.
Awesome, I will.
Yeah. But let's talk about assisting hands. What's y'all's background before you got involved in this?
Okay, I'll start. I'll take over. I have no problem with that. So we actually both have the background of teachers. Mm-hmm. We piddled around with some other jobs before we became teachers. Matt did some sales, and I was an administrative assistant. But mostly we did careers. I taught 11 years, and Matt put in 14 years?
14 years, yeah. 14
years. Between Joshua, Alvarado, and Arlington. And so we might fall into that typical group of COVID happened and the school system kind of took a change.
Yes, it did.
Yeah, it took a change.
That's a whole nother conversation right there, isn't it?
Yeah, there we go. So Matt had always wanted to own his own business. Me probably being the control freak said, no. We're in good jobs. We enjoy people. But I think I was literally sick with COVID and was just miserable and just all the stuff I was doing. And I said, okay, go for it. Figure out what we need to do. And we went through business counseling and a franchise broker. So that's a whole nother thing. If people have dreams of what they want to do. And found Assisting Hands. It is non-medical home care, which is partners with home health and hospice, but we send caregivers into our clients' homes to help them stay at home longer.
So when you talk about non-medical, you're talking about those things that need to be done other than, providing the medications or blood pressure readings or whatever else. You're talking about do y'all do personal service for these guys?
So you're looking at showers, toileting assistance, help in and out of beds and chairs, cooking, light housekeeping, really anything. Yeah, really anything underneath the roof of your home that you would do in your normal day.
Yes. So, if I was a client of yours, then, I would do my laundry, or you would, do you help them with financial, paying their bills or whatever else? Or, that to me, see, that's what I would be most concerned about if I were becoming disabled is making sure that the lights are still on and everything else. Or is that not really what y'all do?
So we're able to help with the companionship, the technology, run errands. I had a client just the other day. The mom everybody wants to remain independent, right? Nobody wants. You don't want to leave your home that you've been at for 20, 30, 40 years. You don't want to admit that you need help, but her kids lived out of town, in another state even. And the son was like, we just want someone to come in and check on you. So they go in, they check on her. And he said, sometimes she gets her TV confused or her cell phone confused. So they help with that. And they said, when you check the mail, if there is an important notice or bill, can you just have the caregiver snap a picture and send it to me so we make sure we're on top of it?
I see.
So that kind of thing. We want to protect our clients and our caregivers from questionable situations, of course, but they're able to give that assistance to make sure that the family can stay involved. We're just an extra set of eyes.
So when you went to this business consultant, when he said, you want to do these things, did it just kind of the light come on and said, this is something I want to do? Or is it something that you went in there thinking, I want to do something with people, I want to do something that serves and all this? I mean, it's not the first thing I would have thought of. Not for me personally.
Yeah.
Did you just go in there as like an open book, or did you go in there and said, can you help us find something like this?
So they had a whole assessment that they had us go through. That's a great question that you asked. So it was a lengthy process to find out exactly, what our personalities were, what our previous experience was, what our knowledge base was. What was interesting to me was how safety and security minded both of us were. I had no idea. I thought I was like, hey, let's just go into this thing and figure out what to do next. And really found out I was a lot the opposite of that. Wanted to make sure that every I was dotted, every T was crossed. So to answer your question about that, to be frank, once we got our answers back, her answers, my answers, because they were independent. Right. The lady, Sarah Waskow is her name, still does this. She came to us and said, hey, you guys came from school, from the education background. So here are things in education that I think you'd really enjoy. And I really was kind of okay with leaving that behind, to be quite frank.
Yeah.
Yes.
But after having conversation with her, again, that personal interaction that we had, we looked at many different types of businesses. And really, Brittany was praying about it and really sought God out. And he just kept putting it on her for, home care. I didn't know. I was like you. What is that? Is that, physical therapy and that kind of thing? And it's really not. And when we found out that the main idea of home care is to keep individuals in their home and out of the hospital, that's like, we got into education because we love people and we want to help people.
I would think the same motivations that got you in education got you into this as well.
Absolutely.
Even if it's not the same kind of profession, it's the same motivations.
Absolutely.
And that's a really great thing. And, y'all do exclusively with veterans and or their widows or widowers?
No, so we can serve anyone. We even have some, we do have some clients that maybe they have disabilities and they're a little bit younger for what you would typically think of for that. But we can serve anybody in their home or assisted living. We specialize in veterans. That's really our heart in these small towns. I mean, Matt he's not from this area, but he's from still a small town. And so there's so many less resources in this area. We really love coming into these smaller towns and helping them out. Because, you go Dallas, Fort Worth, you have tons of options. You don't have as many options down here. So it could be any person in their home. Veterans do have a really special program available that offers our services for free.
Well, I'm going to be kind of open book about what's going on in my life about it. My dad is going to be 86. And physically he's okay, but it's got dementia a little bit, and it's a burden on my mother. And if my sister and her husband didn't live 5 minutes away, it would be a real problem. They live in Corsicana. They used to live in Ennis, and they said, Ennis is too big city. No, my dad in his second career was doing stuff with Navarro College, so they just moved to Corsicana. And he, like I said, he doesn't need physical care as such, but he doesn't remember things well. He remembers my name. He remembers, details about, how to get around town. So I wouldn't call him having Alzheimer's. I would just say he's just 86 and has a very, very limited short-term memory. And I always get concerned that if my mom passes, it's going to be a burden. And if he passes, my mom is still got for faculties, but she's more physically frail. And so and we're at the point where they may need this type of service. Do y'all serve Corsicana by any chance?
Right. So you brought up several things there that I thought were really interesting. So number one, I was in Corsicana yesterday helping out a veteran. So a lot of people, first of all, when they hear the VA, they typically think of a program called Aid in Attendance, and that's a great program. It's a huge program. We're talking about a different program, which is completely unrelated to Aid in Attendance, and it physically gives the family member, the veteran themselves, hours per week for us or even home health, which is not what we do, to come into the house and provide that type of care through the VA. So it's completely free to the veteran. And again, they can still get their aid and attendance, which is like a pension that they would receive every single month. It doesn't take away from that. It doesn't diminish it or anything like that. But it allows us to be able to serve them in the home. But what you're talking about in your scenario is, to be quite frank, very common for what we see.
Right.
You know, and if I can be bold enough to say,
Sure.
My grandfather was 36th T-Patch Division. They took the third highest casualties on the American side. He was boots on the ground in Germany. And my grandmother, who had her faculties, still drove. You get the idea. We were coming into my senior year. We couldn't find Nani. It was about 5 hours after she went missing. We found her. But she had been the one that had taken care of him, get him into the shower, get him in, fed him in and out of bed and chairs. And she was 85 pounds soaking wet. So I figured she was going to outlive him by a number of years, and that was not the case. And then not only that, but when she passed, having all of her faculties, we knew that Charlie had 3 strokes that we knew of. So she really had to take care of him. And again, had we have known this program was available, I think it probably would have saved his life, but certainly saved her life, because, again, a year and a half after she passed, he passed. And I can't tell you how many times I would show up to the assisted living and have his head on my shoulders, and he's just crying, just streaming down my shirt, going, I'm just so lonely. And, that's tough.
Well, it is. It is.
And it's so good to see that the VA is willing to help families out for that reason. So
my dad is a veteran. That's awesome. He served in the Army in the early 60s. His biggest military experience, if you will, was the Cuban Missile Crisis. And when Vietnam blew up, he had already been put in the reserves, and he stayed in that for about another decade and change. But as far as my mom is concerned, she's still, her faculties are fine. She drives, she does the shopping and all this other stuff. But and my sister there though does help, and my brother-in-law goes over there and will fix things or whatnot. And they have like the yard taken care of, and they have a cleaning lady come in. But on that kind of note, when you talk about non-healthcare related assistance, do they do those things? Do they do house cleaning? Do they do yards?
We don't do yards. I mean, I've had a caregiver be asked that
Get a little closer on your
with the night. We've had a caregiver help out with some yard work out of the kindness of their hearts, but not typically. But it doesn't even have to be a veteran. I mean, your story is so similar to what we hear on a day in and day out basis. And my grandmother, very similar, in her early 80s. Lives down the street from my mom, who's retired, so she can step in, but that becomes exhausting. To be a family caregiver, you're spending 20 to 30 hours a week serving your loved one. And think about if you still have a regular job on top of that, it's mentally and emotionally exhausting.
Fortunately, both my sister and brother-in-law work out of the home in Corsicana, and they're about 5 minutes away. And so they are very available, but it is exhausting. And, I saw them for Easter last Sunday afternoon, and like I said, my dad's health is okay. And my mom's health, though, is a lot more problematic, a lot of internal things, and I don't want to get into all that, and she probably wouldn't want me to. but I am concerned. And my brother-in-law and I spent some time talking about the near future, what's going to happen. And they're willing to do more, but I'm like, that's. I think they're taking on more than what they realize. And
you become resentful. And so one thing we talk about a lot is making sure we have those, we keep those boundaries. Like we want to remain a son and a daughter and not have resentment. I mean, we love, right? We love our family members, but the more that there can be resentment build up. So a lot of what you talk about when there doesn't even need to be family or personal care is coming in 1 to 2 days a week for what's called respite care. So just kind of relieving that family member and giving them an opportunity to get out of the house. And so they come in, we do light housekeeping they'll clean up the house, companionship, check on them. And it just kind of gives that family member a little bit of a break and peace of mind to know someone's coming in.
And that's what I want from not just my mother, but for my sister and her husband, because it is an everyday commitment. And as my mother also gets older, it's going to be a double commitment, so to speak. And I talk about Robin's family. They live in North Carolina, so they're beyond your range, I suppose. It's getting similar. A lot of people, they live a lot longer. I think they outlive their bodies now a lot more than they used to. Mm-hmm. But it's, I don't know, it's concerning. I don't want to see this happen to my family and all that. Fortunately, we don't have a lot of conflict about, who's going to do what and division of the assets and all that crap. I mean, that's not happening with us, fortunately. But I think this is something a lot of people may, wish for, but don't even know that it's available to be had.
Right, they don't. And so that way, when I go in, I'm the one that comes into the home, sits down with the family. We go over, I say, hey, how do we get here? So many stories start like that. And like the ones, I hate to use this, but the lucky ones are the ones that have involved family members. But like you said, it's an everyday commitment and we don't want to become resentful. We don't want to get burned out. So I just say, hey, you have a great care team already. We're just partnering with y'all to provide some relief and then peace of mind. So if the family members, the sons and the daughters live out of state, out of town, it gives them an extra set of eyes on their parents.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, the people that go into these homes, now, how many of these people work for y'all doing this?
Oh gosh, Brittany, over 100.
Over 100,
well,
yes.
Over 100.
That's a bunch. Oh, that's a lot.
That's a lot.
All right. First of all, how does one be qualified to do this? So you're not just hiring right off the street. I'm sure there's a great deal of background and other vetting going on. So how does one become one of your employees? I guess the best way to put it.
I'll go. This is my Matt's out in the street in the community. I join him sometimes, but
you're on the mean streets, are you?
That's right. I'm the tough guy.
Yeah.
They have, you have to have a license by the state in order to have an agency. That's a big thing, especially as people are looking into these home care services. As you're Googling, you can use a care.com and all those kind of things. You're risking a lot. I mean, we have heard horror stories of people signing over cars and all of these things to these strangers that are coming into the home. So when you go with a licensed agency, you have a layer of protection because you have to be licensed. We have audits by the state. We have to carry X amount of insurance and that kind of stuff. So when they come in, most of our ladies come from, I say ladies, it's a female-dominated industry. Right. There's a few male caregivers. We do have a few, but it's a female-dominated industry. They mainly come from facilities, so memory care, assisted living, but unfortunately, we all know that there's a shortage of workers. They're being piled on 20 patients to one. I mean, it's crazy. So they prefer the one-on-one setting. Or the couple, you have 2-on-1 if you have a couple in the house. And so they come from those. They're nationally leveled background check all the way down to their driving record. We do have to have a driving record on them because we're allowed to drive clients to appointments, to errands, that kind of stuff.
Think about that. When you just said about that is, so let's say that you have a client that needs to go to a doctor's appointment. No one's there to do it. This is what y'all come in and do.
Yes.
Okay. And they sit there and wait for the doctor.
They wait for the doctor. Yeah. I even have my caregivers that they take notes. We call them care notes. They take notes and they report back to the family. But we've been able to catch UTIs are huge in the senior population. Whenever we start to see we're just kind of mentally out of it or falls, or that it usually means that there's an infection. And so we can catch those before they even happen. So back to the caregivers, that they have to have at least a year's worth of experience. They have to have a clean background, and then they go through our training and shifts and everything in our hands-on training. And we train once a month. Like this month's they're teaching them how to do a strong transfer, which means they're going to be able to safely get somebody in and out of a chair.
It's interesting also. And this is also, the services sometimes may be provided in the evenings. I had a friend whose mother did this kind of work, and she basically her shift started at 10 in the evening and went to 8 in the morning, and she would just, and quite often she'd just go over there and sit on the couch and maybe take a nap or whatever, but she was there while the patient was sleeping in case something happened in the middle of the night. Do you do that kind of thing?
Mm-hmm. Yes, and so we serve individuals 24/7. And then kind of like you had mentioned, your friend would go over there, or his mom would go over there and sleep on the couch. We don't allow
sleeping. That's a big no-no.
Yeah,
This is a private arrangement.
The private, yeah.
All right, this is a friend, and she had the friend's mom knew this lady who was having Alzheimer's, and the Alzheimer's patient or the family said, "Could you do this? And you can just come over and we just want somebody in the house." And so it wasn't anything like y'all are talking about, but I just wonder if y'all provide this kind of attention, whatever.
Yes, we're 24/7. So we come in when the family needs us. Oh, it's your prayer alarm. You gotta go turn that off.
Or if it's a prayer alarm, I want to answer it.
I want to answer.
Yeah.
We need God every day in what we do. We have no shame in that.
I would imagine.
My apologies.
No, it happens all the time. I get spam calls right in the air.
Well, I thought if I would put it on silent and all the way down, but didn't account for an alarm.
Doesn't count for alarms. But no, we're 24/7. So we come in when the family needs us. A really popular time for people who just need someone to be checked on is like a 10 to 2. So that you come in, you make sure they're awake, get them up, medication reminders. But we do 24/7 cases where someone's in there 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and then they do a shift change from 8 p.m. to 8 a.m.
Well, my folks won't, I don't think, need that kind of 24-hour service. But and right now, like I said, my sister's taking on that load. But I'm really thinking more about her than I am about my parents, because you mentioned the respite care, and the fact is, they're may travel, or they may take a vacation, whatever. What happens then? And do you have is this a long-term commitment that the client needs to make, or it could be just like, okay, my parents are going to be gone or rather my caregiver's going to be gone for 2 weeks. I want my parents to be taken care of. Do you like those kind of short-term contracts?
Oh, you want me to answer? Okay,
yeah, that's fine.
They have, so I have lots of words with. So no, you will see some agencies. So you have to compare your agencies to see which ones are the best fit, because some of them could have you have to have this much care per week. You have a 6-month commitment. In Matt and I's opinion, this industry is a roller coaster. You don't know where your loved one could have good days, bad days. Things are going to change. So everything we do is done week by week. What you would call if they're out of town is respite care, or PRN, which just means as needed. So we have some like that. And then we have some people that we're going to come in every week on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays.
Well, I would think traditionally you'd have like a set format, set schedule, whatever else. But I'm just thinking, in case my sister's not available and my parents so far could handle it, but, the future's coming, where they may not be able to do so quite so easily. And that's my concern.
Right. It's very common, hey, we're going on vacation. I need extra help this week. And they add it in there. A lot of people are worried about their parents being resistant to having someone come in.
I could see my dad doing that. Yeah.
We have a few tricks of the trade to get them in. We always talk about, especially men, veterans, they will do anything for their wives or their kids. So when you say, hey, this is really to help mom out, this is really to help your daughter out, just to have a peace of mind, they become a little bit more, it's not about, they'll do anything to help people.
Oh, I had an aunt also in the same situation, and my cousin was spending a lot of time he was a farmer rancher, and he was spending a lot of time on the road, taking her to this, that, and the other. And it was just, it was grueling, very much so. And I thought, and when I was kind of thinking about this show, and I thought, you could have used that, quite a bit. But I was going to get to that point about resistance. I mean, do do the clients sometimes resist having somebody come help? I mean, their pride factor kicks in. I mean, we've talked about my dad, my mom, maybe not moving into like a nursing home, certainly, because they're not at that point, but like an assisted living situation, have buy their own little townhouse or whatever and have a little assistance and all that. It's going to take a SWAT team to get my dad out of that house, He's not moving.
Right. This is a good transition before you go to any type of facility. And that's so a lot of it, like I said, we spin it towards like, hey, you're helping your wife, you're helping your children, like have a peace of mind. They're better about it. We also use we know you can do everything, but we're going to have someone come in and help mom clean the house. That's always a really big one to get in there. But my families and my clients really start with, hey, why don't we have somebody come in once or twice a week just to kind of visit, tidy up some stuff, and then as they get used to it. So it's a really good transition piece into that. And then when it becomes too much, like I said, most people don't do 24/7. Like you said, your parents don't need that. That's not a very common thing to do unless you're on hospice or something like that, and you just are determined to stay at home with that. But it's a good transition into, okay, we've maxed out home care. Now it's time for an assisted living.
I would also think some of the, trepidation about having a home person coming in is, essentially it's somebody you're meeting for the first time. And you're going to be in their home, and there's going to be family assets available. I mean, and you know what I'm saying? You're putting a lot of trust in a person coming in your home, and not that this person is going to be 100% above board. How do y'all guarantee that? Because I'm sure that's a question you'll hear. Say, my mom has jewelry, or my dad has some kind of collection. How can I be assured this person coming into my home is 100% trustworthy? I know that's a hard question, but I bet you hear it more than once.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. And so, the first layer of protection really starts with the people that we bring in. So the state of Texas has their requirements.
They're not very high.
Exactly. And that's unfortunate. But with that being said, if we see anything in the background that we wouldn't feel comfortable bringing in for our own family, because we serve our own family member with our own caregivers, then we're not going to place them in a home. We're not going to continue the hiring process at that point. So that could look like, there's a lot of different things that the state would allow that we go, really don't feel comfortable with this. So there's step number one is frankly blocking the ones that have had a history of this, even if it was 17 years before, and it is what it is. The second layer is frankly the insurance. We don't want to have to enact it, but at the end of the day, that's why we have the insurance, is to also help protect that family member. I get it. You can't replace something of some sentimental value, but by the same token, again, hiring excellent people. We have a client services coordinator that goes out and regularly checks on every single week various cases. And these are ones that we go to, we try to go by on at least a monthly basis to each individual. But again, she's out in the field. So again, we're physically training on site. And, if there's ever a cause for alarm, we would take care of it.
Yes. Yeah. It's a high. And then just to add in that, our goal is to always, we get this question a ton. Is it going to be the same person coming in, or is it just a random? Because, people are familiar with home health. I'm sure, we have a nurse that stops by, and they stop by for 15, 30 minutes.
So I don't know. Yeah, about
very, very short. Yeah, short amount of time, and it's random. You don't know when they're coming or who's coming. So we do our very, very best to make sure that you have a consistent person in there, because it's building a relationship. Life's about relationships. And so if they can build that relationship, especially when they're at your mom's stage where they don't need personal care, but you're building that relationship. When they need personal care, they're going to be a whole lot more open to letting that caregiver come in and help them give a bath than they would if it was some random person every single time.
Yeah, I would imagine. So if a potential client in his family or her family wants to meet the caregiver before they start service? Is that possible?
So we're able to allow, we don't do the interview process. Unfortunately, that just has not worked. I say, so we have a computer system. It works a lot like Netflix. You know how your Netflix says you have 90% chance of being a good fit?
Yeah.
That's how it works. So we are able to say we have these 3 caregivers. We do a warm introduction. So we come and we bring them the first time so that the family likes to be there a lot the first time. If it's not a good fit, we go to the next one on there.
Okay. So, but I'm sure I could just see this in my own situation. If y'all matched up a caregiver with my parents, my sister and I will be there the first meeting, because and let's say, neither she or I feel good about this fit for whatever reason. We just get this, the red flag goes up or something. Can we say to y'all,
100%.
Let's go to the next one?
Right.
100%, very normal.
And we physically introduce as well. So we're not just sending a random person to the house that first time. You're also getting that client services coordinator out there to physically, here is the caregiver, here is the care plan, Well, here's where you find these things in the home.
I know my sister will be there, and I'll be there too. My wife will be there, and because they're going to make dang sure that anybody comes into my parents' house is going to not just do the job, but I would imagine if after taking care of these people on a long-term, consistent basis, they almost become like family members.
I was about to say that you're letting someone into your family and build a relationship. I would say 90% of the time it's a good fit the first time. But I've had ones that say, hey, this person's really nice. They didn't do anything wrong. Dad just doesn't feel comfortable for whatever reason. And we say, okay, that's why we have so many caregivers. We'll get them on a different shift. And I used to think everybody had to be super over the top and bubbly and all this kind of stuff. I was wrong. Some people they want quiet people. I've had somebody tell me, they talk too much. Okay, but that caregiver was a perfect fit for the next client. So it's all relationships. I mean, that's what it comes down to. And we all would fit with different people.
Okay, does insurance cover this?
Oh, that's a tricky question. I'll let you get into that, Matt.
Okay. So that's kind of new in the state of Texas. So you have traditional Medicare, and then you have Medicare Advantage. So, excuse me.
Spring allergies.
Yeah, allergies kind of kicked my rear end after this last weekend.
Yeah, I know that feeling.
What's happening in the state of Texas, we're seeing really a few providers are providing the type of care that we provide, and they'll pay for that. So through Medicare Advantage, not your traditional Medicare. They keep telling us that they're going to bring it online, and yet we haven't seen it. So right now we're looking at Medicare Advantage if they have Aetna, Humana, or Centene WellCare. So Centene bought WellCare back in 2020. So if you have one of those three, we can certainly provide the need. Not right now.
That's mine, but
right, that's a big one.
I'll have to ask my parents. I really don't know what insurance they have, to tell you the truth.
And it's such a new process. Like, they've been threatening that they're going to do this, and it's a great need, right? I mean, Matt could give you all the statistics on like the baby boomers aging and all that kind of stuff, the aging population and where we are. But I think Texas is finally getting, hey, we need to get these people some help. So that type of insurance will cover it. If they are a veteran, the VA offers those services. And then if they have a long-term care insurance policy, usually like they're like a John Hancock or something like that, you don't see them as much anymore. People don't buy them as regularly, but those cover it. And then I do have some families that do it, will pay out of pocket for the private pay.
Well, what about you? You've just said this, but the VA, do they help for veterans?
And that's what I really wanted to bring up, because there's a huge opportunity for our veterans that a lot of them were told by their CO, their commanding officer, don't don't go to the VA. You don't qualify. And this, again, this might have been a discharge 50 years ago.
Right.
They left the military, they got their DD-214 and off they went. So I have a lot of veterans that I've worked with where, they were actively told to stay away from the VA, or maybe they had a bad experience if they went to the VA. But here are some things that the VA can provide to our veterans, and that is, number one, there's a very high chance that they're eligible for free health care. We can get into the parameters of what that looks like, but really, most of the veterans that I come across are in the VA healthcare system, and I believe they're still grandfathering in the spouses of veterans if they're in TRICARE. But that being said, you're talking free healthcare. I'm running into individuals in this area that have had surgery covered, even not outpatient, but outside the VA themselves. The VA paid and they outsourced it to another doctor.
So they didn't have to go down to Waco, for example, that
Exactly.
big VA hospital.
Or into Dallas at the medical center there at the VA Medical Center.
There's also a Fort Worth center.
Right. Yeah, there's an outpatient clinic in Fort Worth.
But we're talking about health care. We're talking, but being covered by the VA. But does the VA cover what y'all provide, the non-healthcare services?
That's correct.
They do.
They do. Mm-hmm.
That's interesting news.
So what the veteran needs is to be in the healthcare system, which is free to do, and we will help them get
So
connected.
they have to be in the VA health system.
Correct,
And
which is free healthcare. So do it.
I don't know what my dad is, and tell you the truth.
But if he's not, there's a way to get in.
Well, he's never. I know he's never gone to the VA hospital. But I don't know if he's eligible, if he's part of the system. I don't know if he just chooses to go to a local doctor or
It's
whatever.
a phone call to find out if he's in their system. Now, he might have to get reconnected, but I mean, to be honest, in the grand scheme of things, that's actually a pretty easy thing to do. If he's not connected, it's a 2-page form, and I'll help him complete it. This is the information they're looking for, because I get it. It's confusing to read.
Yeah.
I can't submit it for him, but by the same token, I can help him, literally do everything but.
I hope he can do it, because he's been out of the military formally, so to speak, since the early 70s when he got out of the reserves. And, and I don't ever recall him using VA services. And I don't think it's because they didn't like it, but because he had a company he worked for a long time that had really good health care, so he probably didn't think I need it. And now he's in Medicare, and he probably doesn't think he needs it. And so he never really thinks about it that much. But so I just want to be clear for the listeners and for myself that if he's in the VA system, your services can be paid for.
Yes.
Okay.
And even if he's not, that we walk them through that process. The biggest thing I was going to say in there is the VA doesn't get in a hurry to do a lot. They do. They are wonderful, but they don't get in a hurry. So the people that we have a hard time helping get their free service is once they're really, really sick, maybe they're on hospice or something, and I'm telling them, hey, this is a 30-day process to get going. That it's like, is it worth it at that point? So we encourage people to get in the system, at least get it going. Hey, I have clients that get 6 hours of care and they use it for housekeeping. All right, let's use those 6 hours. But when you really, really need it, you will be allotted more hours.
And just to go back one more thing, you said Medicare Advantage does cover what y'all do?
That's correct.
Okay. I'll have to ask my family what they're involved in, because we're getting close. I'm getting close to Medicare, and so is Robin. She don't want me to tell y'all that, but she still looks like a young girl, so there you go. Anyway, but it's I'm getting to this point where I'm going to have to start making these decisions for myself. And that's, I'm not nearly the condition that y'all's clients are in, but I may be someday. And I think a lot of people really don't realize, my age, don't really think about it because they're so focused on like their parents and whatnot. And then, I don't want to be a burden to my family, my kids, because they got their lives, and it is emotionally draining, and I just don't want that for them. And so how could they get a hold of you for this service? I know you have a website, I'm sure, but how can they get a hold of you? And walk me through the process of, like, I want to sign my dad's family up, my dad, my mom up. Walk me through that process.
Okay, so we have website, Facebook, assistinghands.com /Mansfield. That's where our office is located, but we serve all the surrounding areas. The phone number is on there too. It's 972-640-5600. 4263. You can find that on the website.
Can you give the website one more time? I bet Taylor could whip it up real
Yeah.
quick. He's real good at that.
assistinghands.com/Mansfield.
All right, he's there. He's working it up now. He's
He's good.
He's the wizard. Yes, we call him.
But okay, so say you call in. So you call in and say, "Hey, I'm interested in services." We ask you a couple of questions, see if that. And the next step is you set up an appointment for me to come out. There we are.
Yeah, right there.
VA approved. That's us. And I come and sit down with you, and then we decide what's the best payment type for you, VA, private pay, or the Medicare Advantage.
Is there, differentiations in payment, I guess, in terms of like the more service required, the more payments required, I would imagine, right?
Right,
Okay.
right. So we set up a good schedule. The VA process is you're either in the healthcare or we get you in. You get a primary care physician visit, ask for non-medical home care, and then they ask you a few questions, answer them honestly. We're not allowed to coach that. That's why I have to put that in there.
Well, that won't be a problem because my parents' doctor is the next student of mine. He graduated many years ago before you did. Yeah. But that's interesting because, small town Corsicana, and they were going to this doctor for the first time. Matt Branch is his name. And he walks in and goes, Allard, that name sounds familiar. And says, well, did you go to Burleson? Yes. He was my teacher. Yeah, and that kind of stuff. And,
Small world.
that kind of stuff. But so, I don't think that'll be a problem.
Now, the primary care doctor visit has to be through the VA. That's where so then they go through that. The social worker and the doctor will allot you X number of hours, anywhere from 6 to 72 hours a week. And then
That's
we
a
get
lot.
you
72.
72 is a lot. Those are my bed-bound clients.
Well, my dad's not that. He's still pretty active, really, physically.
So you're probably looking at like 6 to 11 hours a week. They come in
something like that.
2 to 3 days a week, check in on them, give sister a break in those. And then the same is for private pay. We come in, we sit down, we come up with the best plan of action, what days you need, and we set it up.
That's reassuring. It really is because, dealing with agencies is always a beating, and to have somebody there hold your hand, while you do it helps. We're looking in Social Security pretty soon, and like, oh man, that's going to be a minefield to navigate and that kind of stuff. Oh, it's like chutes and ladders. Oh, you missed this. Go back to the beginning. But that's real relief to know that y'all are there to not coach their answers, but coach them through the process.
Right, because it can be so overwhelming, and I think that's where Matt and I's heart and the teaching comes in is. We will help you through this process. I had somebody say, well, what do we like? Well, I said, we'll walk you through this. And he goes, so what's your charges? And I was like, well, nothing. We just use us whenever you go to the VA. Like we would like to be your home care service, but we don't charge to help you walk through this process.
Well, you get paid when you sign up with the client and provide whatever services y'all agree upon.
It comes straight through the VA.
Yeah. Wow. So you get to deal with VA all the time, don't you?
All the time.
And that's actually a good point to be made, though. A lot of times an individual is going to call the VA, and the VA, first of all, isn't going to show up at your door, knock on your door, and say, hey, we owe you some money, or there's free health care, just sign right here. They're not going to do that. So we, a lot of times, can not only enlighten the individual on what's available to them, but we also partner with individuals in the community that are, frankly, better experts at the different, because the VA is such a big thing. It's not just one thing. There's a healthcare side, there's a benefit side. It's funded for 2 years if the government, from what I've been told, if the government were to shut them off from all money, that they could still operate 2 years. It's a huge organization. So, a lot of times individuals don't realize how big it really is, which is why it takes them so long to get back with you.
Of course.
But we have the numbers to say, oh, you need to get connected to a doctor at the VA. This is the number you need to call, or you need to find out if you're in the system. It's a different number, but here it is. And here's what you need to ask.
Well, I'd like to, find out what my parents' situation is, and maybe y'all can hook them up with the VA and have that all taken care of, and then maybe like 2 years from now, it's already been done, and so we don't have to do it in a hurry or get all worked up because bureaucracy is what it is. Just grinds us into paste.
You don't want to make decisions. We call them panic calls, and we get panic calls a lot. And we can help. We can get you taken care of and set up with a caregiver, private pay wise, within 24 hours. We have that capability, but you don't want to make that decision quickly because you're in a panic.
Right.
So we always encourage the better, like you can set it up, build that relationship is always the better bet.
Well, we're almost out of time, so y'all take over and tell the viewer that came in during the middle of the show or towards the end of the show what they need to know about y'all and how to contact y'all and how they can avail your services to their loved ones.
Okay, we're Assisting Hands Home Care. We serve Southern Tarrant, Johnson, and Ellis and Southern Dallas counties. We help seniors stay at home longer safely and specialize in veteran care that is provided with the VA.
You said Ellis County. How about Navarro County?
And Navarro County.
Okay.
Yeah, that gets way far out there. We were in Matt was in Corsicana yesterday.
Yeah.
That's an all-day drive.
Yes, it is. Oh, yeah, we make it often, yes. We're quite familiar with Highway 22.
You got to get enchiladas from Old Mexican Inn.
We have been there several times. I've been there several times. And there's a hamburger joint my dad really likes, and my brother-in-law.
Carpenter's?
Bottle Caps, it's called.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's also an Italian place that Napoli's, I believe it's called.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so you got free publicity, guys.
Yeah. One thing I'd like to throw out there before, because I know we're getting up on time. I go and I talk to I talk to veterans at seminars all the time, and it's I'm not really there quite yet. I need to get connected to the VA, but I'm going to wait until later, and then I get that panic phone call. Grandpa fell. He's now staying in bed. It is a whole lot easier to go ahead and do it while we're healthy, ambulatory, even can drive myself if need be. But once they get bed bound, it makes it exponentially harder. It's not that we couldn't do it, but we do what we can, but it's a whole lot easier while we're healthy. So I would encourage them to go ahead and do that while they're healthy versus waiting until the shoe falls.
Right.
And here we are.
Right. Because you never know, because, at this point, it is kind of almost sadly to say a day-to-day proposition for some people. One day they're healthy, next day they're, something severe has happened.
Right.
And I've seen that in my life. I'm sure y'all seen it in y'all's, and certainly in your professional situations. Y'all do a God's work. That's what I'd say. You're doing God's work. I mean, because, I know that this is your living and all that, but you could make a living in a lot of different ways. But this really gives back to the people's lives. And so we appreciate what y'all do.
Thank you. We love it. We love people, and God has brought us here. We wouldn't have it any other way.
Well,
100%.
Maybe you can do this again towards the end of the calendar year. I'd like to do it again because by that time I may have more questions. Because I'm going to talk to my family about this, and they'll probably have questions too. And so, but give us that phone number one more time, please.
Yes, and on that note, coming back, there's so much more on just like how to intervene with aging parents and when to intervene. So we just really scratched the top of the surface. But it's 972-640-4263.
Okay. Well, before you leave, we'll set up another time. Of course, there'll be a few months in the future, but it's I like to have follow-ups because an hour seems to be a long time, but it goes by very fast, and there's so many other questions that other questions lead to and whatnot. So, but I appreciate what y'all do, and maybe we can get on the air and talk about education sometime.
Oh, I got lots of opinions on that.
Okay.
But thank you for having us.
Sure.
Yes, thank you very much, Brad.
Thank you, Taylor, and.
Always.
All right. Next week on Monday, it's of course Eclipse Day, so Taylor will be out filming it if the weather's good. Hopefully.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, no, I got you. And then on Tuesday we have Harvest House, and then I have a new nonprofit coming on, a local one here in Crowley, House of Hope, and they're kind of related to each other, these two institutions. So I'm looking forward to it. Meeting Elizabeth is her name, and she'll be coming in next Thursday. So we'll see y'all Tuesday, and have fun on Eclipse Day.